I suffer with anorexia. I love animals.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
And when did you?
that's me.
Cool. And so when did you start with anorexia, Emma? Was it sort of triggered by anything, or have you sort of always had the sort of issues that come with it?
I've always had body dysmorphia. That goes back to when I was a toddler, really.
Right.
But the eating habits came in when I was about 11, 12. It fully fledged at about 13, 14.
Yeah.
I think the main trigger was change, really. So my parents got a divorce around that time. I started secondary school and was bullied quite badly. I had to move away from my family home where all my animals were, which was not very nice, really, for me. So I think it was mainly just change, but obviously the bullying was a big part of it in school.
And were you bullied for sort of the way that you looked and things like that?
Yeah, so as much as my family and close friends and stuff told me I wasn't fat, that's what the girls at school called me. They said, "You're fat."
Yeah.
Even some of the boys, and I think when you hear it often enough, you believe it yourself. And obviously I had the body dysmorphia anyway, so it was easy for me to believe. And at first I just started dieting, really. My mum didn't think much of it, and then I'd start lying about what I was eating and hiding food and not eating, and that's when it fully set in.
So when you first, obviously you've explained that you've had body dysmorphia for a long time. Have you ever had sort of any treatment or anything? Have you had any treatment in regards to your body dysmorphia or your anorexia?
Yeah, so I started off with CAMS when I was a kid. They did all sorts, CBT, all sorts of things, but I suppose it helped in some ways, but it never changed my perspective of myself. CAMS it was helpful, but not. I think the main help was I went to a unit in Hessel. It's not there anymore, but it was called West End.
Right.
I was put in there, and as much as they tried to refeed me and stuff, it didn't so much help with that, but it helped me wear clothes that weren't baggy. Be able to go shopping and not have a panic attack and that kind of thing, and prep meals, I suppose. But at the end of the day, I knew how to get out, and that I think that's my main problem at the minute is I can go through so much help, but at the end of the day, they just want you to eat. So if you eat, they leave you alone, and then you can go back to your old ways, and it's difficult to get out of that cycle. Because to live a normal life, I need to get out of that cycle, but it's just difficult.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I would say I'm sort of the best I've been in a long time, but I don't do any of the things that I used to do at school, but I still feel that guilt every time I have, if I go out for a meal and everybody's like, oh, let's have a starter and let's have a main and then let's do this. I go home and I have to process that in my head, and I have to almost talk myself out of, well, you don't need to go and throw that up to feel better. In the morning you'll feel better. But I still do that now, and I'm 10 years from my worst, you know what I mean? But I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. They sort of see me as, I'm a healthy weight now, I live a very sort of normal life, and I do sit and I eat with people. That was something that I never used to do. I never used to like sitting and eating with people because I used to feel like they were watching me. And I never used to like that, whereas now I'm quite happy to do that. But they don't realise that it stays up here. You might have, all those physical things might have stopped for me, and I'm very lucky to, you know, to be where I am at the minute. But you still keep those demons, you know, in your head, and I think that's something that a lot of, you know, young people and things like that don't realise, that it stays with you for a very long time. You know, you can be better in sort of the NHS's eyes or a doctor's eyes, but you never it's never going to leave you, is it? The amount of things that obviously people like me and you have gone through, it's not something that just disappears because you've started eating.
I think a good way to put it is that you're always recovering. You're never fully recovered. It can take the tiniest little thing to just set you back.
I think women, especially, and men, to be fair, but I think now we live in a society now where it's deemed that you have to look a certain way to be accepted in this world, and, you know, social media, reality stars, all those things, they don't play a very good part in that, do they? You know, they all look the same, they're all this like perfect aesthetic, and, you know, they've all got these fabulous figures and all these things, and that's what young people are growing up to see, when actually, you know, that's a very small part of your life. You know, those things fade when you get older, and possibly by doing, you know, the things in regards to, you know, dieting, extreme dieting, and whether it's, you know, bulimia, anorexia, anything, it's going to affect you long term and right into, you know, I think, like you say, I very much agree that it's probably never going to leave me. I think I'll probably be 60 and panicking about the fact that I've eaten a cake. So so it's, you know, just to look a certain way when you're younger, you know, when you're older, it's going to affect you, you know, down those lines. What's your sort of opinion on social media and things like that? Do you think that affects, you know, young people in a very negative way? Or
I do, and I also think that a lot of the photos, you know, in magazines and stuff, they are photoshopped, and it's not an actual real body. You know, like nobody has nobody has perfect skin. There's always something. You know, I like so I don't watch much reality TV like Love Island, but I do follow a girl called Olivia Bowen, and I only follow her because she got a horse. But she's quite body positive, as in she started to post photos of, you know, natural skin, and she's gorgeous and she's happy in it, and the fact that she has the confidence makes her more like gorgeous to me, you know, to look at, because she's so confident. And I think a lot more are doing that, and it's brilliant to see. But obviously you get the people like the Kardashians and stuff, you know, with the fake boobs and that, and young girls want to look like that, and I mean, if they were poor, they wouldn't look like that, you know. A lot of it's money and Photoshop, and it's just ridiculous to me, really. And the other thing is, you know, clothing sites. So I shared a post on Facebook, I don't know if it was like a year ago or something, but there was on Boohoo, they'd put that there was a plus model. She was a 12.
Yeah.
12 is not plus.
No.
So that really, really annoyed me, because I mean,
I think I probably shared the same post that you've done, because I do remember that. I remember that they put on their website that she was a plus size model, and like you say, she was a 12. And, you know, for me, that is so damaging. You know, even for somebody that doesn't, for me, that was really damaging. But for somebody that, you know, a young person, you know, 14 years old, you know, coming up into, you know, high school and all those things, and thinking, oh my God, if I'm a 12, I'm a plus size person. Like, no, absolutely not. Like, it's just, it's so mad. And it's like they've started bringing out these plus size mannequins, haven't they? And they're like, if you ever looked in the tab, the clothes that they're wearing, they're like a 10, and I'm like, how can you say that that's a plus size mannequin? It's not. It's just not like a 6 or whatever, like your normal one, like your other ones are. So it's mad. So we touched upon it briefly about sort of the support that we've had from family members and things like that. But just as, how would you want somebody to approach a conversation with you in regards to, you know, like everyone sort of, I know when I went through it, everyone used to be like, so what are you eating? What have you eaten today? And for me, that was always like, no one ever seemed to want to ask if I was okay. They just wanted to know whether I'd eaten that day. So in like an ideal situation, how would you want like friends and family and people like that sort of approach conversations with you, really?
I think I'm quite lucky in that my friends and family treat me just normal.
Yeah.
I mean, food does come into it a little bit, because I do faint a bit, so mum will be like, "What have you eaten?" You know. But
Yeah.
most of the time they don't really. I think so. When I was in CAMS, my mum had she joined this group to know how to better help me, and she's read books on how to be able to speak to me and things, and that's helped a lot because I mean my brother's always been the same. It's like he's not my twin, but it's like he's my twin, so we have like an understanding.
Yeah.
But since the sessions my mum went to and my grandma as well, my family just treats me like I'm not ill, which is quite nice, because it just makes me feel normal.
Yeah.
And I think because I look normal now, and I know I've been in lockdown, but if I go to the pub, no one questions it because the only thing that they say which annoys me is, "Oh, you look so like well, you put weight on, you look, you know, I know I've put weight on, I don't need you to bloody tell me because I'm not in control of it. You know, if I'd have gained it myself, maybe, but they're not to know that, which is fine. You know, it's not their fault that they don't know that.
No, but even sort of those conversations. I mean, I find those conversations really hard. You know, when I lost loads of weight at school, and I was sort of at my worst and find it very hard to eat and things like that. For me, when people say to you, "Oh, you look well," or "You've put weight on," or whatever, that used to make me feel like, "Oh God," because it's really hard for people that don't go through it to understand, but that's not what you want to do at that point. You know, the whole reason that you've started this sort of journey of like having an eating disorder is because you wanted to lose weight because you didn't like the way that you looked or things. And I know that's how it was for me. So for me, by someone saying you look well or you have put on weight, that then made me almost go back a few days because I was like, but I don't want you to say that because I know I need to, but I don't want to. So something I want to talk to you about is it the Pogo Project that you do
Yeah,
that you've done on Facebook? Is that what it's called? Am I pronouncing it right?
yeah,
So do you
yeah.
want to tell us sort of a little bit about that and like the idea behind it?
Pogo's my dog who I think saved my life. Well, my mum says it as well. So when I was 14, I want to say, I was hospitalised and I was really scared because I think nurses and stuff have got a lot better now, but back then it was you need to scare this person into eating. So I was petrified. And Pogo was born the week I was in hospital, and then we got him in the January after. He was born in the October, and I think the main reason I say it saved my life was because I knew. So at that point, I just wanted to die, and I knew my family would be okay. Yet I know they'd be sad, but they can look after themselves, you know. Whereas Pogo, he gave me a reason to have to keep going, and he used to sit with me at the table and not beg for food, but you know, like just sit with me and just be like, yeah, you're all right, you know, keep going. And he's been with me for 11 years now, and so I wanted to make the charity. The idea behind the charity is that to raise loads of awareness about it, because it's still kind of taboo. It's got a lot better, but it's still taboo. Like, you know, it's not talked about enough, I don't think. And then you can talk about it, but then it's experiences and, you know, like things that you can't say. So like, if you're talking to someone struggling with their weight, if you start talking about numbers to them and weights, they can get quite badly triggered and things. So, and then compete, because at the end of the day, like, eating disorders are very competitive with each other. I found that out when I was in the unit, because I was with another girl with an eating disorder and would compete all the time, like who could eat the least kind of thing. It was really not helpful, but I'm glad I went through it to learn that. And the Pogo Project is, I named it after Pogo because I didn't want to name it after myself. To me, he's like my guardian angel, so that's why I named it after him. And it's just to scream and shout about how serious these things are. You know, you can't see them, not always, but they are. A lot of the time, it can be a death sentence. You know, without the right help, without early intervention. You know, I think the earlier you catch it, the more of a normal life you can live. So yeah, it's just about that, really.
Had a look at the Facebook page, because you popped it in the email that we sent, and something that we will do is when this podcast goes live, I'll tag that Facebook page on it, so that if any of our students that do watch it, they can access that, and hopefully, like you say, we'll raise some awareness together, and hopefully this podcast will raise some awareness as well, because that was something that it's very close to my heart. And obviously, when Karen sort of said that she knew someone to come on it, I was very excited. So thanks so much for coming on. So finally, I end every podcast with a top tip. So can you give us your top tip for, it can either be for anybody suffering or for a friend of anyone that's suffering, just your top tip for anyone that's listening.
Talk about it. So if you are suffering, talk about it. It's difficult, it's so difficult, but talking about it, as much as it sounds like, how's that going to help, it really does. And then if you think someone around you is suffering, talk to someone about it, you know, because as soon as someone can help them and they don't feel alone and they can get support, as much as they might not want it at first, it does help. It really does. So it'll be talk about it.